Welcome to Equity in Focus. I am your host, Kevin Hooks. Today, we're diving into the heart of innovation and leadership with a man who has redefined the boundaries of marketing, education, and community engagement. Please join me in welcoming the remarkable Shawn Gauthney. Thank you for joining us, Shawn.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. This is an honor and a pleasure to be here.
No, we really appreciate you taking the time out. I'm sure our audience is going to get a lot of great nuggets from our conversation today. But before we do that, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them who Shawn Gauthney is.
Again, my name is Shawn Gauthney. I currently am the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for Cheyney University. For those that don't know, Cheyney University is the first and oldest HBCU in the country. We're a few years, a decade shy of our bicentennial. So we, have been a part of the educational and higher ed landscape for nearly 200 years. I also, me personally, I serve on a few nonprofit boards. I do a lot of nonprofit work in my spare time. I'm a father. I have and my children span from almost 28 years old to 8 years old. So I'm a pretty busy father, right?
You're almost done. What happened?
Yeah. Like they say, once you're out, but they reel you back in. So it's right. And a almost new grandfather. My first grandchild will be born in April. So I am, outside of just kind of working and doing, what I do for higher ed in a professional capacity, and what I do in my volunteer time, I spend a lot of time with my children and just trying to make it as much lasting impact and memories that I can there.
Oh, that's fantastic. And congratulations on your
Thank you.
pending grandfatherhood.
Yeah. We having a granddaughter. She's due in about a month now. So
wow, who'd have thought, right? You still feel like that young kid just getting out of college, and all of a sudden
you blink. I'm telling you, you have these kids, and then you blink and you look up, and then they're having kids, and you say to yourself, where did this time go? Where did these 28 years, where did that happen? And so and then it makes you look in the mirror, right? It makes you evaluate the time and say, well, what happened? I'm still only 25. How did you get to be 28? I don't know how that happened.
Right.
I'm as a kid say, the math ain't mathing, but I'm trying to figure that part out.
No, that's fantastic. It must feel incredible to walk into a building, an institution with such rich history. Talk about what that feeling is like, and maybe even share some of the cool historical nuggets you've learned since working at Cheyney.
Yeah. So one of the cool things when you're on Cheyney's campus, we have our historical quad. All the buildings on the quad are well over 100 years old. Right, we have a building on a campus that's nearly it's about 150 years old, that has a stop on the Underground Railroad. Right, so it has a basement, and under the sub basement was an area that was a part of the Underground Railroad. So we're in the process now of trying to verify, because we believe that may actually be closer to 200 years old, even prior to this being a college campus. Wow. And when you're here, I mean, you're when you walk the quad and you walk the campus, you feel it, right? It's in the air. It's that you're walking in history, that you're walking through it, that you're a part of history, that the grounds that you're walking in the footsteps of other great people. And one of the coolest things about being here is Cheyney is a relatively small school and always has been. When you compare it to some of the HBCUs in the South or some other schools, we're relatively small. But when you think about the people who have come through here, the political leaders, the teachers, when you look at just in recent Netflix movie, Bear Rustin, you look at the affiliations to that are back to the university, it's paramount. And the more that you start uncovering the layers, you start realizing that Cheyney has been a fabric of Black history, but American history, right? And that you can't tell the story of American history without Cheyney University.
I'm such a fan of history, and I've been listening to, since that Netflix doc on Bayard Rustin, I've been listening to a podcast that followed his journey as well. And funnily enough, just last night, the episode mentioned Cheney College. And I just
Yep.
felt like it was serendipity because I was going to be interviewing you today. So the
Yep.
fact that you
Yep.
brought that up is amazing. So, I know you guys have had some proud graduates from there, but what kind of words or, would you share with young people looking for, making a decision about going to an HBCU versus a traditional college? What do you say to them about, the values and the benefits of going to an HBCU like Cheney?
Some of the key values and benefits is when you're here, you're able to really find your voice, right? You don't, and this is not to disparage other colleges, right? There's need and value across the higher ed landscape, but being in an HBCU, you don't have to when you're at a predominantly white college, you have to find your people, you have to find your voice, you have to navigate a lot of, and you're doing this in a very short period of time, right? You're in a transitional period. You're 17, 18 years old. You're transitioning from mom being your alarm clock and your chef and your driver and everything else in a short period of time, then all that being on you. You're navigating your social landscape. Just where do I fit in socially? What club, what group, where do I belong? And then the layer when you're at a predominantly white school is that you're growing into the person you're going to be, and you're trying to find your people within people, right? Where do I fit within where do I fit? And at HBCUs, you don't have that. You're kind of walking in with your people, and then you get to deepen that knowledge of your people. A lot of times, and I've seen this a lot with young people, where I see when the light has gone off, where they're like, wow, I didn't know that our people did so much, because you don't get a lot of that when you're in your high schools or middle schools, and you get a lot of that here. You get the professors who pour into you. You get alumni who pour into you, who teach you a lot about the institution as a whole, but your people as a whole. That what link in the chain that you're becoming and the chain that you're linked to. And I think you get a lot of that by being a part of the HBCUs. And then when you think of just HBCUs in general, without HBCUs, the Black middle class doesn't exist, right? HBCUs have created a space for, the Black lawyer, doctor, teacher, engineer, like that, a space where you can get that chance that you may not have gotten somewhere else for various reasons, right? A scholarship chance, or rather be economics, or through the books. And you have a lot of that pathway, with an HBCU that you may or may not have had elsewhere. And I think that is some of the major keys that the HBCU provides, that pathway to really realizing who you are as a person, as well as a doorway into an opportunity that may have otherwise passed you by.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned like this whole everything being linked. And I think about like how it must feel to walk in the door and automatically, feel the shoulders that you're standing on. Talk about like how you got there. What shoulders did you stand on to get to where you are?
So for me, my journey wasn't necessarily a straight line, especially to get here. I worked for, so previously to here, I had a few stops within higher education, some with some very small, almost trade school, adult learning, and a lot of my higher education journey has been working with adult and non-traditional learners in the for-profit space and in higher education. And it was through a chance meeting, right? I was working here in a capacity with another organization. I came here to meet with President Walton. Now I've always known I'm a native Philadelphian, right? I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up in West Philadelphia. Cheney is practically in my backyard. So I've always known Cheney and been connected to Cheney in one way or another. But professionally, it was coming here and sitting down and meeting with President Walton and hearing his story in terms of what his last 6 or 7 years have been like at the university. His transformational journey towards, the resilience and the renaissance of Cheney from some of the years in the 2010s, which may have been a little rough, to where he's really been able to really, raise them like a phoenix out of where we were to where we are. And it was that conversation that made me say, well, I need to be a part of this. Because it's really, the work that I do professionally is really about how can I leave this place better than I found it, right? I want to do work that it may not impact me. It may not even impact my children, but I know that the work that I'm doing will leave a lasting impression for a generation that's coming behind me. And there was no better place for me to do it than Cheney. And I said, hearing that and hearing, President Walton's journey was like, this is where I need to be.
It's interesting, like to listen to you share that story. It occurs to me that you are clearly a storyteller. So, how important is storytelling to you in the work that you do every day, and how do you hone those skills?
It's the most important, right? It's telling the story. It's if you think of just the landscape of who we are as displaced Africans or African Americans. It's our oral tradition of through that is the link through everything, right? How rather it's in family, in our church, education, it's the story that's told and passed down. Without that, it's our history is lost. And it's the same with, whether it be with Cheney or with all that we do, being able to tell your own story, being able to tell your own story accurately and be the author and the orator of your story is paramount. It's a key skill that you need. And it's not that others won't tell your story accurately, but they may not tell the story the way that you need it told, right? They may not outline the things exactly the way that you need it told. They may leave some parts out, or they may add their own kind of influence in. But ultimately, being able to tell the story the way that it's needed, and the way that it needs to be heard is a major thing and a major skill.
As an important tool, I believe, in being successful is storytelling. Another important skill, I think, is to continue to challenge yourself educationally. And you seem to do just that. Talk about like why you continue to challenge yourself and what you've done, including like the executive MBA work, et cetera.
Yeah. So for me, it's the big challenges, but it's also the small ones, right? It's really working. One of the things that I took on this year was I challenged myself to really dive into the full social media sphere from a personal side, not professionally, but personally. I was a social media voyeur, right? I was the person who liked but didn't post, right?
Yeah.
And so, but coming into this year, I really wanted to learn that as a skill. I wanted to dive into AI and Canva and editing and just a lot of that skill set of what happens on that side. It was a dedication of mine to really learn, to dive into that and learn that. So I think learning and being on that learning continuum is not, sometimes we look at, and it's very daunting when you look at it on a broad scale, right? When you look at tackling a degree or a class, that can be overwhelming. But micro learning, like say, okay, I want to learn this today, right?
Mhm.
I want to understand this better today, and then tomorrow I want to build on that. And I think that those are the keys, because it helps build your confidence, right? It really helps you to look back and say, wow, in 90 days I really added on a real skill that's usable, right? It may not give you a credential, but I've added in a skill set that may not have been that I didn't have prior to. And that's something that I always use. And for me, it's for me, I want to learn more than I know, right? I'm honest enough to know that I don't know it all. I'm never going to know it all, but I want to work as hard as I can to learn as much as I can, so that I can, it makes me better at my job, but it also just makes me better as a person.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the micro learning. I am convinced that so many of us, once we graduate and get to certain levels in our career journey, that somehow falls by the wayside. And I think it's important to really emphasize, the importance of that continue treating learning as a lifelong journey. So, I commend you for continuing that. And I hope that our listeners will also embrace that for themselves. But it's also more than just like educational journey. You serve and support nonprofits, and I know that must be nourishing to the soul. So talk about that part of your journey as well.
Absolutely, Kevin. It's that for me is it's almost hard to put into words, because it's like I said, I'm a native Philadelphian. I still live in Philly, and I see the city, and I've been able to see it from various lenses, right? From a child up through as a man. And one of the things that has really what got me into board service was one of the things that I see is that when we make it, right, we leave, we jettison, we leave to, greener pastures. We very rarely do we redistribute our resources back into the soil that we came from, right? So we leave to other counties, other states, other cities. And one of the things that was very important to me was that I was able to give back in a way that is really giving back. I'm not, nonprofit board work is volunteer. I chair a couple boards and I serve on a couple more. And I really wanted to be a part of the fabric of how things move forward, the decision making of how, what we can do to impact young people. And I'm very purposeful about the boards that I serve on, that I really want to be in service of young people, because a lot of times, it's young people do not have people who think like them or want to really provide for them that are on a decision making side. A lot of times people make decisions in the best interest of the organization and forget about the people that we serve. And I try to carry that voice into every board meeting, everything that we do, every hire, every budget, every committee, right? What is the voice of the people that we serve? Because without them, why are we doing this work? If that, and that is the key for me, is keeping the people that we serve, kind of really in my lap, so that I'm always cognizant of them and their journey and the work that we do for them. And that is, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's what gets me out of bed every day. It's, I love the job that I do, and I love, the work that I do for Cheney, and I love Cheney, but my board service really is a really key component for me, that I really love and I love doing.
Yeah, it strikes me also listening to you talk about that. It must be incredibly gratifying to model those behaviors for your children and your extended family members, especially coming from West Philly. Like,
Yep.
talk about like what people that you knew you back when, how it impacts them to see what you're doing today.
They're surprised, right? There's, you get a lot of like, oh, yeah, I am. No, yes, I am doing that. Yeah, that is me. And that is me. You're right. That was me that yes. But it's inspiring, right? So you get the surprise, but you get the inspiration, because when I speak with young people, when I have, I do mentorship, when people that I've known and grown up with, like one of the things that my oldest daughter says to me, and she's been saying a year, she says, "Dad, do you ever not talk to people about going to school?" Right. And it's just become a part of the lexicon of my conversation, right? What are you doing, man? We get you into school or something, because I need people to see that it's possible. Man, I grew up with a single mom in West Philly. My mom, there was a period of time my mother made $11,500 a year with two boys and a nephew. So it was three boys, living with her. And she figured out a way to make it work. But for her, education was always key. But the education to her was about us graduating from high school, right? Because she grew up during a period of time where you didn't the people around her didn't graduate. But she knew that the education was something, like you got to get that, something. And she instilled that in me. And then for me, it's about, if I can surprise, and from that surprise, I can inspire, then we're really doing something, because ultimately people need to see us in spaces so that they can see that it's possible. Yeah. More often than not, right? When we all think back, our teachers didn't look like us. Our school administrators didn't look like us. Our public safety people didn't look like us. Any of the people in authority, city government, any of those people, social services, a lot of the people that were in the spaces and places of authority didn't look like us. So the people who looked like us was, in the neighborhood, the barbershop, the beauty salon, the corner store, the hustler. Like, those are the people who look like us. So that was the aspiration. I can aspire to do what they're doing. And for me, I just try to counterbalance that. How can I balance that? You can do what I'm doing, and how can I help to tell the story of what others, like yourself or anyone, are doing, so that if it may not be my path, it may be, Kevin Hook's path, right? It may be Taru Brooks's path. It may be, Eric Westray or the Tisha Council, it may be anyone else's path. But how can I tell the story of these people so that they're able to really see that there's a path for you, a doorway that you can walk through. And then that doorway, it looks like you, and there's a people on the other side that look like you, sound like you, are from where you're from, and able to really kind of move things forward.
You know, and I really believe that that's important, inspirational point to make. In that, look, I grew up, my knowledge of Philadelphia was, was Meek Mill's, Beanie Siegel, and State Property. And I
Hmm.
always believed a lot of the stuff was sort of, fantastical until I went to Philly, particularly West Philly. And a lot of
Hmm.
that stuff immediately occurs and shows you, oh, they're not really making a lot of this stuff up. So I really think
No.
it's important for people knowing, no matter where you come from, you happen to have touched every rung of the socioeconomic ladder. So you represent what's possible. So
Yep.
give some advice to young people, maybe in West Philly or places like that around the country, about how important it is just to stick to it. Because a lot of time it's just attrition. There's a law of attrition.
Two things, the two pieces of advice that I give when I'm speaking to everyone, right? Dream big, right? Dream as big as you can imagine. And when those dreams come true, dream bigger, right? When you make those, when that happens, dream bigger. Dream as big as you can imagine, as big as you can think, because once they'll come true, you'll realize, man, I can act. There's more there. Your dream may have been to graduate high school, and once you achieve that, dream about graduating from college, right? Dream about becoming Dr. So-and-so, or dream about, whatever that dream is for you, dream as big as you can, but never give up, right? Always stay the course, because it's going to get hard. I think one of the things that is key is that we, and I try to teach as much as I can, we learn more from our struggle than we learn, and from our failures than we do from our successes, right? The struggle and the failure is just preparation for success, right? That is when we perfect our failures is when we succeed. And that's when, for me, is where I think that, not enough is taught. We see in social media and we see the results, and a lot of us want the results of what success looks like, and not understanding that in order to get there, we have to push, you have to stay the course, that it takes years to get a degree. It takes years to perfect the craft. It takes years to build a YouTube channel, or become an entrepreneur, or become, a PhD, whatever that is. It takes time. But once you get there, you really start to really understand and say, wow, I'm glad that I pushed through, because the success is worth it. And I think, though, if I can give advice to anyone, those are the two major things. It's to dream as big as you possibly can, because those dreams are going to come true. And then when they do, stand on those dreams and dream bigger, but never give up. Just when it gets hard, when it gets dark, when nobody's supporting you, right? When you're like, man, no one, just don't give up. Just keep pushing as hard as you can. Keep stay the course, and never give up, because it's going to happen for you. It's the ones that it doesn't happen for the ones who give up. And there's plenty of people who do. I'm gonna say this before we go. I was mentoring a class of it was maybe about 30, 35 people in the class of young people. And I told them a story. I said, up the street from here. So this was a workforce development course, through an organization called Year Up. And it was doing a mentorship workshop for them. So where the workshop was, right up the street from us, was a CVS. And I said, this program is a year long. And then after the end of this program, some of you are going to get internships, and then some of you are going to get hired from your internships and go on to have, great careers. This will be a building block for those careers. And I said, 5 years from now, two of you are going to run into each other at the CVS up the street. And, you're going to be in there. It's going to be a lunch break or whatever, because it was in Center City, downtown Philadelphia. And I said, you guys will be in your lunch break or after work, or for whatever reason, it's just the way life works. You'll run into each other. You say, oh, man, I haven't seen you since the program, right? And you guys will shake each other's hand, and you're going to talk. And one is going to say, so what you been up to? I'm working over here at, JP Morgan Chase. And, since the program, I got in and I moved up, and everything's doing great. And I said, and the other one is going to be ready to clock in because they work at CVS. It's just up to you to choose which person you want to be in that conversation. It's not to say that it's easy. It's just up to you to make the choice. You have to make the choice today to say, well, on that day, I don't think I want to be the person who's getting ready to, check me out in line. You know what I mean? Because I didn't stay the course. And that's the only difference between those two people. One quit the program, one stayed the course.
Yeah.
It's because you both are here. You both had what it took to get here. right? You know what I mean? You know, you had the aptitude, you had, you had the support, you had the people, you had the opportunity. One of you just stayed the course. The other one said, I'm not going, I don't feel like getting up, whatever your reasoning was, you quit. And on that, and then it won't be for 5 years that you realize, oh man, I should have stayed the course. And at that point, it's not too late, but you're gonna have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really important also to remind people like we're not suggesting that this is easy by any means or stretch.
Yep.
What
Yep.
we're letting them know though is when you hear those voices, the naysayers, the anti-achievement culture in your ear. I remember the quote that Nietzsche said. He said they laughed at those who were dancing because they couldn't hear the music. If you hear the music, keep listening to it. The music of that journey towards success, and don't let
Yep.
people who can't hear it dissuade you. So
Yep.
to that point, let's pivot before we get out of here. Talk about what exactly you do day to day at Cheney University.
So what I do, it really kind of, I'm glad we kind of, it ties it all together, is my job is to tell the story. What I like to tell people is that I act as a boutique marketing and advertising firm, and my sole client is Cheney University, right? And my job is to, author and tell the story of our achievement, of where we've been, where we're going, and how we're going to get there, right? To really lay it out to, to our stakeholder base, because it's not just our students, right? It's prospective students, it's their families, it's the influencers around them, the pastor, the deacon, the coach, right? The people who are around them and influencing young people. But it's also our alumni and our philanthropic donor base. Everyone needs to be able to see that that Cheney University is winning, and that they want to attach themselves to a winner. And however they are attaching themselves. And what I do is I manage all of our media, social media, traditional media output, our front facing website, anything that is external communications or marketing kind of comes to our office. I work with a really great team of comms experts and creative, to really make sure that we're doing we're trying to put Cheney first, and make Cheney a premier institution, of higher education across the landscape, not just from an HBCU standpoint, but in general. That when you see Cheney, that you can see yourself here, or you can see yourself working with Cheney.
Yeah, I read a book by a guy named Naveed Jain. He's one of those Silicon Valley gazillionaires. And he said he's convinced that it's no longer enough for us to take our children to the water of education, nor is it enough to make them drink. We've got to make them thirsty. Tell our audience, like it's sort of an elevator pitch about coming to Cheney. How does Cheney continue to make them thirsty, and why should they choose Cheney?
Choosing Cheney is not just about our history. It's not just about us being first, but it's about us being premier, right? We have always sat on the cutting edge of education over the last nearly 200 years. And even currently, one of the things that we have been able to do is reduce the cost of education. One out of 3 of our students are here on full scholarship. We have a scholarship program, through our Honors Academy, where you're not only able to go to undergrad for free, but you would also be able to, get your master's degree for free, right? And when I say free, wow, it's tuition, room, board, right? You just got to show up, right? You just got to show up and stay the course. And we've always been on the cutting edge of that. President Walton's vision has been about the marriage of higher education and business. So one of the things that he's really been able to do is attract some public and private organizations to house some of their corporate headquarters on campus. And in doing so, he's been able to negotiate on campus internship opportunities for students, so that they do not have to leave campus, travel, or go anywhere. They're able to walk across campus and have a relevant internship, here on campus. He's also in the process of building a multi-million-dollar sports complex, because he really wants to, the understanding of what's not just that, the student and college culture is not just in the classroom, but it's the grounds that you walk on and the things that you participate in. And that, and not that the building that was there wasn't capable, but it was older than most of the people walking this campus, right? So how do we amplify that? How do we do that? How do we make sure that our students have not just the HBCU culture, but that they have, a full university culture that they can plug into. And I think Cheney does a really good job of doing that, while also keeping our student to faculty ratio at about 14 to 15 to 1. So you have you're able to really connect with your faculty. You're able to, to kind of talk with them and learn from them, and they're able to learn you and understand who you are and teach you. And I think that's one of the biggest differences at Cheney, is that our faculty is able to teach the students, not the class. And that's a major difference when you think of it, that, if you're in a class of 200, you're teaching the class, right? This is just a sea of faces, and I don't know one from the other. When you're in a class of 15, you're able to build relationships, right? You're able to actually understand each person, each name in this class, and you're able to build a relationship with them, and they're able to build a relationship with you. And this is the first kind of bedrock of networking for our students. This is how they learn how to have that exchange of ideas. I know this was more of a less of an elevator pitch. This was more of a walking down the street pitch, but yeah,
this is going to be a lunch pitch.
Yeah, this is a lunch pitch. I'm sorry. I know this wasn't an elevator. This was definitely a lunch pitch, but it's one of those things that I think Cheney is an amazing place, for students to come to. And I believe that wholeheartedly. That is not just our history, but our future.
So before we get out of here, give us the Cheney website, and then give us any social that you want to, put out there that we can then access, not only you, but how we learn about what's happening at Cheney.
Our Cheney website is cheneyuniversity.edu. You can, find access all up any up-to-date news, anything that's going on. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Cheney University. It'll either be Cheney University or Cheney University abbreviated. So Cheney, UNIV. So you can definitely find us there. Or if you a lot of our actual name is Cheney University of Pennsylvania. So that's you can definitely find us on all social media platforms as Cheney University of Pennsylvania, where you'll see all of anything that we're doing, all of our updates across the gamut. So we're you can always find us there and kind of look for us, follow us, stay up to date, and stay connected.
Well, that's fantastic. Listen, and we really appreciate your time. That wraps up another enlightening episode of Equity in Focus. Huge thank you, Shawn, for you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Inspiring insights into leadership, innovation, and certainly the power of giving back. It's been a privilege. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the pursuit of equity begins with us. I'm Kevin Hooks, and until next time, keep dreaming boldly and acting with purpose.